the story for Gripner and the Glimmery is quite simple. We started talking about NFTs and blockchain with the Dungeons and Dragons community. We got a lot of negative feedback pretty quickly. And I think that's because a lot of the views of traditional gamers, whether they're digital gamers or tabletop gamers, is there's something speculative and something fishy going on in the blockchain space. And so I think that's kind of the key kind of vision and cultural aspect that we have to overcome and also engage with in order for the broader number of users out there to really start engaging in their games. And I think it really comes down to that word play to earn. There's been a lot of emphasis on the to earn part, the speculation part, the tokenomics part. How do I stake, how do I earn from this project versus how do I play? And I think that's really what's happening in the play to earn space right now, or games on the blockchain period, is we're starting to see the fun actually come out, the traditional fun, as the games that are being produced now are more focused on the user experience than the actual speculation and the actual earning. Because a lot of those traditional users don't care about the ability to, let's say, own the asset. They're not interested in all the details. They're more interested in how do I have a great time playing this game with my friends. And we at Gripner are also very focused on that, making sure that fun is at the core of what we're doing, play, versus trying to always highlight the to earn aspects of it. And the cool thing I think is what's happening right now is there's been a tremendous amount of investment over the past year in new games. And good video games, good games take a while to actually be created, to be developed. And we're gonna see over the next 12 to 18 months a huge spectrum of brand new projects that really put the user in front and the game in front of the play in front of the users. It's very different than what we've seen in the past. So that's my first talk track is let's start thinking more about the play side and less about the earn to invite all of our traditional users into the games.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that I'm very excited about in the blockchain gaming space is the ability to welcome our players to come and be a part of the building experience. So with our open architecture, you can come and extend our game, whether that's finding new utility for our NFTs, or if you're technically minded, actually coming and interacting with our smart contracts and extending the game itself. And so we're very much so interested, you know, Decoko going back to like 2017, 2018, they were early architects in DApp and DAO software, so we're very interested in decentralization, and we're very interested in building tools to let the community come and be co-participants, and we want to build our projects alongside our community, and we're already seeing that happening. And I think that that's a beautiful part of Web3 in comparison to Web2, and I think it's only a matter of time. You know, like you said, great games, AAA level games, they're already in the mix, and it's baby steps, you know, where this technology is being developed constantly along the way, and so we're moving in that direction, and there's a lot of very exciting things that Web3 affords gaming.
I'll just throw one comment and offer a slightly different perspective. I do agree, excuse me, I do agree with Patrick that fun needs to come before earning. We've seen a big misstep in that, in the space where you're doing really mind-numbing things to earn money, which ends up getting relegated to people that, you know, if you look at Axie Infinity as an example, a whole world of people that are using this as a job to just do mindless things to earn money. We at Silks look at the whole play-to-earn category, the whole GameFi category, as the convergence of investing, gambling, and traditional gaming into a completely new category, where the community really is saying, I want to stake in the game, I want to seat at the table, I want to play, and I want to get rewarded for being part of growing this community, growing this very valuable franchise, and making you a lot of money. I want to make a lot of money too. And I want to do that while I'm having fun. So traditional gambling does that very thing. It lets you play, right? We sit down and we play, and we have a lot of fun doing that. Playing poker or playing blackjack without winning money is not fun at all. And I think this new world, with the ability to own your assets and create wealth by playing, is going to take over and do something very similar to what gambling has done for us in the past.
Yeah, I think both Dan and Patrick have pretty interesting perspectives, and there is kind of two different niches it's coming. It's are you playing these applications for enjoyment, or are you playing them to earn, and how can you gamify that further? So it's really about understanding your audience, whether you're going after the traditional gamers, the 100 million players on Xbox, PlayStation, or if you're going after people that want to earn, want to have fun, and you're able to gamify that further through different gambling featured applications with other additional aspects. So I think there's multiple ways you can take it. It kind of just depends on the application and the end goal of the application and its users.
Yeah, and I think just one thing I would add to all of that too is the whole idea of kind of these people railing against play-to-earn gaming or blockchain gaming or NFTs. A lot of times are sort of in a way shooting themselves in the foot, because we have all of these sort of predatory practices. We have all of these dark patterns that are used for monetization in modern games, especially with the onset of freemium, etc., where people are constantly putting money and funds into these ecosystems, right? And there's absolutely no way for those funds to travel back out. And really, one thing that blockchain has enabled for us with NFTs and with tokenized economies is that the funds can flow both ways, where yes, you can speculate if you would like, or you can make a purchase, a calculated investment decision to play a certain game. And for many people, their one reason for playing that game was because they had a chance to maybe earn back more than they invested into it. And there is definitely going to be the case where people are playing games and putting money into them, and they're having fun, but at one point they're going to be done playing that game, and they just want to move on, and maybe they can sell their assets, right? With with the current models of gacha games and with Fortnite, etc. That's all money going in only one direction, and they're doing basically everything that they can in order to prevent people from being able to cash out, so to speak. So I think that's kind of the only other thing I would add there, but I'm glad we all kind of got to get our 2 cents there. So another element that this is a good segue into is just tokenomics in general. So this is like all the talk within projects and within gaming communities of how can we create tokenomic systems that are sustainable and that are incentivizing users and that are long-term, because even if you're around for a month, you're like kind of a grandpa in the play-to-earn space, right? And it's like, and then of course we have Alien Worlds here, which has been around for a very long time. Crypto Blades is like a veteran in the space because we've been around for a year. It's like so crazy. We're all still trying to figure it out. But I guess Dan, if you wouldn't mind maybe just walking through some of your ideas on tokenomics to get us started, would be great.
Absolutely, Phil. Thank you. I think when we just reflect on what we've been talking about, the importance of fun, the importance of having a game that's going to create engagement is critical. The second piece is the tokenomics. The economics have to work. If you look historically, one of the things you just talked about was, I'm going to play this game, and when I'm done, I want to be able to, essentially sell my assets, maybe make money, maybe break even. One of the historical games that allowed you to do that was trading cards, right? You could buy baseball cards, you could play Magic the Gathering, and if you were selective in the assets that you invested in, and even Dungeons and Dragons for that matter, you actually had assets that appreciated in value. I mean, there are baseball cards selling for millions of dollars today that could have been cards that you played with. The fledgling economy today in the play-to-earn space has a lot of problems, right? We've seen them with some of the biggest games. Axie Infinity's problem was inflation. They created tokens, and they could just keep minting those tokens, and it really relied on new people coming into the game to be able to continue to profit from them and retain the buoyancy within the value of these tokens. Zedrun, a player versus player betting game in the horse racing space, close to what we're doing but very different, allowed you to breed your digital horses indefinitely, and that flooded the market with an abundant number of horses that made their value very low. When we built Game of Silks, we thought about these two different components and came up with a methodology that we thought would really work in an economy. We did two things that were very different, and I promote these as foundational elements to any successful game today. The first one is your foundational token has to be non-inflationary, meaning that it has to be capped. You have 1 million tokens and that's it. And when you run out of the awards, you as the company have to go back in the market and buy back those tokens to redistribute them. That creates intrinsic demand. One thing I like to compare that to is the United States government. Why is the dollar valuable? It's a piece of paper. It's valuable for one reason. The US government requires us to pay our taxes in dollars. And because it requires us to do that, there's a massive demand for the US dollar. Same thing in tokens. And the final thing is, we're a DAO, so everything that goes in goes back out in two different directions, as opposed to with traditional gaming companies where everything comes in and nothing goes back out. We built it as a DAO and created a treasury where all the money essentially backs the token that we give out as the reward. So when you buy a real thoroughbred horse that we digitize into an NFT and you win money, you're winning a token. But that token is backed by a real foundational treasury that has all the money that went into the game that backs it. And the governance token could theoretically liquidate that treasury, which is what creates the value and what makes that chip that you're collecting, that you win, valuable. So those are, again, to recap, non-inflationary economies are critical. There isn't a single inflationary economy that has worked so far. And two, an asset-backed economy, typically in the form of a DAO, I think is incredibly important to create a two-way benefit from both the sponsors of the project and the community.
Yeah, I would say there's actually a lot of overlap there with what we're doing with Crypto Blades as well. In fact, we do have 1 million tokens, so it's a good example. It's entirely, our play-to-earn system is more akin to a dividend yielding system than anything, because we generate revenue in the platform through, yes, new people joining in, but also through the different services that we offer to our players and to other companies like NFT bridging, NFT marketplace. We even are exploring advertising, having different advertising partners within our platform. And then of course we can gamify different airdrops and new fledgling projects that are kind of just up and coming that want to offer their tokens to an existing user base of play-to-earn gamers can do so through our platform. So really just trying to get creative with how we're paying out rewards. And so what ends up happening is that the users that have NFTs are essentially able to come back every day and claim their dividends, and some days that's going to be more than others, right? Just depending on the revenue. But the whole key there just being, we got to be generating some sort of revenue in order to be continuing to produce these play-to-earn rewards instead of just relying on kind of this ticking time bomb of the inflationary model. So.
And that's going to come from the sale of NFTs, digital assets, the royalties associated with the secondary market trading. The more that takes place, the greater the revenues, the greater the rewards.
I love this conversation because at Gripnr, we're actually in the middle of designing our own tokenomics. So this is something that's keeping me up at night. Because if you play Dungeons & Dragons, at the end of a session, you typically have loot in the form of gold, of magical items, maybe some gameplay items. And the question becomes, how do we mint those as NFTs well, but don't have an overly inflationary economy? And how do you create the right sinks, but also how do you make sure that over the long term, it's about building a relationship with the users where they're getting more out of it than maybe they're putting in. So this is something that's very much on my mind. So maybe Dan and I will go off and think about this later.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, and you actually bring up a really great point too, that all of these play-to-earn games don't just have to be buy an NFT, receive tokens, right? They can be NFTs as well that you're receiving as rewards, and that's honestly one of the coolest things about play-to-earn gaming in general is that it is ever evolving in a way. And so I know with our players, for example, there are quite a few who choose to more take a chance to maybe roll the dice a few more times and try and craft some new crypto blades, and sometimes that ends up working out in their favor where they earn more because they can craft something really rare, but they had to take a chance to do that. And so it's also about just applying these different options to people, right? And not just making it so one-dimensional that it's buy the NFT, come here, click a button, do the exact same thing every day. So giving a little bit of variety for what they can do with the NFTs and the tokens too. Anyone else on tokenomics? I know we're just loving the tokenomic talking, right? So the last one that we've actually kind of gone into a little bit, but I would love to explore some more is kind of play to earn, play and earn. What level does play have in, how much attention do we need to be placing on play versus the earning moving forward? I know we've kind of talked a little bit about that, but I think one of the areas that maybe we haven't entirely covered too is how does blockchain gaming compete in the play sector when we already have AAA gaming out there? What's going to make people want to come to blockchain gaming why are they going to play blockchain shooter when they can play Call of Duty or vice versa, and kind of just maybe exploring a little bit more of that. And actually, I think Harrison can do on that one.
Yeah, so I'll start with this. Definitely, we had not contentious conversations, but definitely some different perspectives. For me, I think it really depends on the end user and the audience of the specific product. Games, playing, what is the definition of playing? This is something we kind of talked about. And for me, you play something when you do it for fun. There's no necessary secondary motive. That's why even games like Fortnite, where people are playing, they're doing these microtransactions without getting any actual intrinsic value themselves, where the actual value of the game and the ecosystem is worth more, even if they don't, be able to retain that internally. So if you're a game, a play to earn game, and your main focus is driving that user base up, keeping your interaction, you have to have a fun ecosystem at your heart, because the users are going to be coming there to play, where the earning is secondary. I kind of try and relate this to the Brave browser. If you don't know what that is, it's a privacy-focused internet browser built by the guys that built Mozilla. Has a nice UI, privacy-based, better than Google Chrome in a lot of ways, but they also redistribute a portion of the advertising revenue you generate back to you. So not only is it a superior product, but it also redistributes that value back to its end users. So the earning is secondary, and I think for playing for games that are focused on fun, the earning needs to be secondary, where the enjoyment and the playing is the primary goal. A lot of these users are very skeptical of value extraction from these microtransactions, from these other ways that these studios are just doing whatever they can to extract value. So I think what we were saying before, the value going in and out is vital, but it needs to be about the playing first. And if it's about the earning, that's a different type of ecosystem where users might be willing to spend money up front, but the fun and enjoyment isn't the primary factor, like when you're playing poker or blackjack. It's to get that external value back to you as the interactor. So you need to really decide, is the earning more the primary objective, or is the playing, and then you need to build the ecosystem from there.
I agree with you, Harrison, but I do think that you have to have a compelling enough and differentiated enough product initially to build that community. And I think with Brave, and I use Brave, I think that it was the earnings that compelled people to make that leap. And even though I do think it's a superior product, I think that on a marginal level, you needed that earning to make the leap over. And I think that if you're going to switch from Call of Duty to a blockchain equivalent game, that game has to be compelling enough in its essence to port you over. And I think that what compels you is the fact that you can earn money, killing imaginary people in a video game.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, and so with CryptoBlades, for those of you who have played it, it's what's kind of called like a click to earn game, right? It's like not a whole lot of actual interaction that happens with CryptoBlades, and so it's an interesting. It's always an interesting discussion to kind of talk about where the focus can and should be, and I think that there's quite a lot of wiggle room where we can have both elements of people who really enjoying these new products and like the ability to, for example, be able to trade assets. Maybe that's like the really differentiating factor. And with CryptoBlades, it's very much about the earning aspect of it. Yes, we keep it fun and we gamify it because that's sort of in the industry that we have been in since 2014, making games. But additionally, I really see play-to-earn gaming as a future form of the gig economy. And what are people actually, offering? We are blockchain users. We are bringing our funds into the ecosystem. We are sort of, bullish. These, CryptoBlades players are bullish on the future of blockchain gaming and maybe of the CryptoBlades platform itself. And as I mentioned, they're collecting dividends essentially from revenue that we're generating in other means. So it's very much about to us the earning aspect. And yes, we're trying to keep it fun, but everything that we do that's fun also has a secondary purpose of engaging them in different things that are valuable to the platform, or maybe valuable to other partners that maybe want to advertise or work with us, etc. And especially as we're in this, sort of very decentralized and worldwide space with blockchain. The pandemic has shown in particular that we need more ways for people to be able to earn an income in a variety of different ways from their home. And I think Play to Earn, while not quite there yet, has the ability to be a sustainable form of employment for people in the future.
But I'd say,
Yeah, I was going to say some things that resonate with all three of you thus far, which is I agree with Harrison in the sense that, you have to even ask yourself, what does even play mean? And I think one of the exciting things about this space is that we are expanding that definition and it's becoming more dynamic in and of itself. This technology is able to support things that haven't been supported before. So the innovation that's happening is going to expand the definitions of a lot of things, including into the gaming sector. And so one of the great things about bringing the community into the space is allowing the community to help you define what that is. And when you give them the opportunity to have earnings come first, for instance, so, like in Alien World, somebody may have come in and started to earn, and that may have actually encouraged and inspired them to create a community of their own and start doing, creating their own NFTs and start dropping their NFTs on people who mine on their land or people who are a part of a community that they form. And that becomes very fun for them. We see people holding events. We like to promote our community's events that they have that are completely separate from what we're doing. They're taking our tokens, they're taking our NFTs, they're making their own NFTs for their communities, and they're dropping them on people who are just playing Alien Worlds. And that not only creates a more dynamic space, but it is actually taking the earning part of Play to Earn and then playing with it and making it fun. And so I think that that's just an exceptional part of what's happening here. And similarly to Crypto Blades, we are less of an action game and a little bit more of something that you could come and play in addition to playing other games. You could stop in and mine your crypto or go on a mission and stake your tokens and go on a mission and then come back later and receive NFTs and tokens as a result. And you can go do other things as well. And so when the communities come in and they fill in the gaps and they start deciding what play means for themselves, we're going to start to see this innovation expand even further. I think that's very exciting.
I love it. I can't agree more that the ways of play are changing. And as much as people want to downplay just clicking, I watched my son over 2 weeks on a cookie clicker get trillions and trillions of cookies. And that was fun for him. And all he did was sit there and click that mouse every single day for hours on end. And so fun is different for different people. But I think we're fundamentally at a new shift in terms of how games are going to be played. And I remember the last time we had the fundamental shift was free to play. Because before free to play, you had to pay $50, $60 for every game you're going to play. And then suddenly free to play comes into market. If you remember, the publishers and the studios were very, very slow to engage on free to play. But now you can't miss free to play, it's everywhere. And I think we're on the same journey now that the blockchain, whether it's from an economic standpoint or from an earning standpoint, is really going to change the way games are built and designed. We're at the forefront of that change, and it's going to rapidly shift what you can do with the gameplay experience. I'm excited to see how it plays out.
Yeah, awesome. So that was actually all of the topics that we wanted to cover here, but we wanted to open it up to the rest of you guys here. If there's any particular questions, we have some time for Q&A. I believe there may be a microphone that can be passed around to the back as well.
I now think I wish that my 10-year-old was actually using Crypto Blades or Alien Worlds to earn currency instead of just clicking on a mouse for 3 weeks. That would have been better for all of us.
Otherwise, I can volunteer to have a...
So, given the fuck up that Activision did with Diablo, how would you change that from each one of you?
For me, I think we saw 100 Thieves do a really, really nice revert of that. So 100 Thieves is a really, really big gaming esports team. And after Diablo, a lot of these traditional gamers were like, oh, a great way for us to spend more money and get nothing from it. What is this NFT? Why do I care about it? And at the end of the day, I don't think they really care about an NFT as like an infrastructural item. They want a digital, verifiable, ownable item. And that's what NFTs represent. So it's all about giving the value back to the user. And 100 Thieves made their first NFT fully free to claim, community-based, no strings attached, no roadmap, no blah, blah, blah. They're like, hey, we have a cool collectible for our initial backers. If you like it, feel free to claim it. There's no strings attached, there's no downside. It's just something we want to reward you with. So I think you want to, tread lightly, especially when you're getting started. Try and keep the value extraction as late as you can, kind of depending on the model of your game. And you want to just make sure, kind of like what Patrick was saying, you want to make sure you're giving more than you're receiving. If the end user feels that they're receiving more value than they're inputting, they're going to stay and continue to grow with your ecosystem.
I think that your points, Harrison, are well taken. The definition of community is that collectively you're creating more value for everybody than you would individually. And so the ethos of Web3 is to build a foundational community by creating wealth for them. In the case of what we're doing at Game of Silks, we've built a community in the last 2.5 months of 25,000 people. We gave them the opportunity to buy into the platform at a very early stage, very inexpensively. We then rewarded them with claims. So if you buy an avatar, if you bought an avatar in our foundational community, you got a very valuable piece of land. Our community has made 7 times their money in the last 2.5 months in a market that's been crashing. And the reason they have is because we've made it a point, paramount to anything else, is to give back to our community. I like to use the example of moving to LA in the 1970s. All you had to do was buy. If you bought real estate in LA, you'd be very wealthy today. And I can tell you that if you buy real estate in the metaverse in great projects today, that sometime soon, the value of those projects are going to increase and the assets associated with them, including the land, is going to be very valuable. And so if these platforms reward and essentially create wealth and value for their early adopters, those people aren't going anywhere. They're just going to preach the value of what they're doing, the community's going to grow, and everybody's going to win. And that's not what happens at these big companies.
Not investment advice, by the way.
And not investment advice.
Yeah, I totally agree. Giving value back to the users, and not only that, but allowing users to create what is of value for them. So again, a lot of blockchain tech and some of the open architecture that comes along with that actually allows you to technically build and extend the game and create things that are of value to whatever community might come and do that. That's something we're trying to do with our DAOs, which we've gamified our DAOs. So we actually have decentralized autonomous organizations that are game pieces in our game. They've been accruing treasuries the entire time that our game has been active, since late 2020. And one of the big developments coming up soon for us is allowing the players to come in and take over these DAOs. And via decentralized consensus mechanisms, they can decide what happens to these treasuries, and they can do something metaversal with it. They can do something in the real world. They can do some sort of hybrid of that, but basically giving back that value, not only giving value back, but allowing them to come and decide what is of value to them. And I will also say that I'm a big fan of early Diablo and Diablo 2.
Yeah, awesome. That's really what I was going to add is the way that product has evolved over time is rather unfortunate, because as a huge fan of Diablo and Diablo 2, and if you stopped by our booth and asked me where CryptoBlades came from, like, that's pretty much it. That's where the first idea came from. And what's really cool too is for those of you that don't know, there's this community that was built around Diablo 2 called D2JSP, and they created it's not even a cryptocurrency, but a token, a forum token, where people could sell their Diablo items for the forum token, and then they could use that forum token for any other game or for other items within the ecosystem, right? But what has Diablo done since then? They've prevented people from being able to trade the vast majority of the valuable items that they collect. they've created all of these dark patterns that just are essentially booby traps for people's money, and have gone in the complete opposite direction when they could have been offering even more freedom to their user base, and instead they're basically just sort of exploiting them into the ground to the point where you're not going to have any more brand advocates, right? You're just going to have people that are sort of like cash cows, and that's never been more true, now since the release of Diablo Immortal. And so we're basically trying to go backwards, but do it in a way that is